take more time
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
than Overwatch, but every free time I got, I spend it on Overwatch.
Fair enough. You still enjoying the grind,
Trying to
the Overwatch grind?
uh yeah, the most I can. This is the most Overwatch I've ever played.
Are you still having fun?
Sometimes.
Okay. Well, don't burn yourself out, especially like trying to like kick it up to like the 10th gear, going crazy. Sometimes you're like, I don't like Overwatch anymore. And then like, well, what's the point? You know what I'm saying? So just be careful. All right.
Mhm.
So what are we
Yeah,
looking at today? You have a replay code for me.
I send you a code.
Righto. Okay. Got
Yeah.
it. And what hero
Yeah.
are we looking at here?
In this one I played both Reaper, which is my main, and Genji.
Okay.
Well, I yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Reaper Genji.
Yeah, this is the best replay I could find from the latest.
Sure. Works for me. Works for me. Okay. It's a little short, so depending on how fast our discussion goes, we might need a little more replay after that, but we'll see what happens when we get there. All right, let me
Okay.
get your form pulled up here through Calendly because I want to take a look. 1 second. Okay, so Genji and Reaper. Okay, it's their hero pool. What are your long-term and short-term goals in Overwatch? Get better quickly, become a professional. Okay, sounds good. What do you hope to get out of the session? A way to correct my mistakes without making the game feel like a chore. Okay, I mean that's kind of what we just talked about, right?
Yeah.
We want this to be this. We want this still to be fun. If it ain't fun, then why are we doing this? I think I look at Overwatch as like it's like a fun hobby. A way that we can kind of learn how to learn, if that makes any sense. Like it's a good way to like, how like if you ever played like any sports or games as a kid, you kind of like got to practice like, but you were playing, but you were kind of like learning how to practice. You know what I'm saying? So that like when you did
Yeah.
other stuff as you got older, you were kind of like, oh yeah, I remember back when I did this, or I was playing this game or whatever. To me, I look at Overwatch as like an advanced version of that. Especially if you're like looking to get really good at the game, you're gonna have to really figure out how to keep the game fun, but also how to be learning how to improve faster. So it's like, even if you don't play Overwatch, like let's say you quit Overwatch next year, did you learn something by grinding it, right? Were you able to learn? And that's going to be the goal for me, but that more importantly, that's going to have to be the goal for you, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So
And that's probably what I struggle with the most.
right. Well, we'll talk about them then. Okay, so how long you been playing Overwatch? When did you get started? Why are you a Genji Reaper 2 trick? I like those heroes, but I want to know just fill me in on all the stories. All the stories.
All right. So I started playing Overwatch about 2019, I
Mm-hmm.
think, back in the PlayStation. And back then, uh, I had a broken controller, with drift,
Mm.
so I couldn't aim properly.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that Reaper, which is a hero that I was already interested in before entering Overwatch, because
Mm.
one of my friends already played it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he was close range with a shotgun, so
Yeah.
it was perfect for my condition back then. It
Right.
was a perfect hero for me to start with.
Right.
However, that was the only hero I ever tried for that whole year until I switched to PC.
Yep.
So I guess that really slowed my learning.
Was that 2020 when you transitioned to PC?
Yeah,
Yeah. All
2020.
right. Okay.
I got my PC for Christmas, and
Nice.
and I knew that after I was able to play anything else properly,
Mm-hmm.
the hero I would switch to was Genji, because of I just like his aesthetics, his gameplay,
Yeah.
his backstory. I
Yeah.
just like everything about Genji.
Yeah.
So I started playing him, and for a while, yeah, that was the only two heroes I played, and yeah, I'm guessing that was really bad for me.
Well,
Only playing those two heroes.
let me think about this. So I read a really interesting book about a year ago called Range, and it talks about how like sometimes the world's best fill in the blank, scientists or athletes or chess players or whatever. A lot of them, most of them actually were not like child prodigies. Do you kind of see what I'm saying? Like a lot of them actually were like just normal kids or did different stuff or played this sport or played that sport or studied this, and then they didn't really kind of come into their world until later in their life, like in their 20s, or maybe in college or something like that. So the reason why that works a lot of time is that you get kind of a broader perspective. So you have different experience learning different things and knowing different things. And so then when you do choose what you want to excel at, then you kind of already have like that background or backup, kind of like a baseline understanding, right? Like some of the world's best scientists didn't start this until later. Van Gogh, one of the greatest artists, wasn't a painter till like late in his 30s. Didn't even touch art. In fact, I think he got kicked out of art school for being bad. So like for you, it's like, okay, you want to get good at Reaper Genji, so we're going to practice Reaper Genji. I think the one question for me though is, if I pull up your career profile, how many hours do you have in Moira? How many hours do you have in Winston? Is it 0? Is it 1? Is it 2? Because that may not be good. We don't want you to play a lot of hours, but I think having like 4 or 5 hours on every hero may help you to kind of. Well, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Oh, I do have a bunch of hours in other heroes because at that point I realized. At one point I realized this was not doing me any good.
Right.
So I started. It was like a session where we had this little thing that we wanted to get going. It was like a little gaming club kind of.
Yeah.
It was supported by the county.
Yeah.
It was like a half an hour drive from where we lived.
Yeah.
And we were thinking, well, the guy who ran that told us that he was planning to basically build a Overwatch team. He was gonna get the technology if the business prospered, and we would have basically 5, well, no, back then 6 PCs for us to play in.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I might take Overwatch seriously.
Right.
And that was when I realized playing only Reaper and Genji is hurting me.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
So I went, I think, too drastically, and I basically mind blocked them. I went like, I'm not playing them. I'm playing anything but those two, and I hated the game.
Yeah, that'll do it. You know, because to me, when you're
And
playing the other heroes, it's like you want to understand the game better, but also it's almost like it's like you're searching to find if there's another hero that you enjoy. It's not just a job or a chore. It's like, well, maybe there's another hero that I like too, but I need to try it out. But it shouldn't be like, oh, I'm not allowed to play Reaper Genji, like you said.
it did help me because I found McCree and Hansel,
Yeah.
which are the other two I normally switch to.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, I stopped playing Overwatch for like a year.
Ouch. Well, that's no good. That's no good. So yeah, if you have a general understanding and just a little bit of experience on all the different heroes, it's about learning as a whole the strengths and weaknesses of every hero, right? At least to an extent. But it's also, like you said, finding a new main that you enjoy as well. But ultimately, if you end up playing back with Reaper Genji and you stick with Reaper Genji, at the very least you learn something along the way, But obviously, like, it sounds like you have a tendency to kind of go overboard one way or the other. Only Reaper Genji, never Reaper Genji, and then that's obviously not really working things out. So keep filling me in your story. So what happened at that point? What got you back into the game? When was this?
I don't quite remember, but after that year,
Yeah.
I think it was Overwatch 2.
Okay.
Yeah, Overwatch 2 came in, and I wanted to try it out. And I guess that frustration I had back then, kind of like time wiped it off. So I got back in, and I guess I enjoyed it again.
Sure. I guess so.
But I try not to commit the same mistakes. Like I said, I
Right.
found McQueen and Hansel, and at that point, I got more hours in other heroes, and
Sure.
I found some I enjoyed.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're at a point now where if you've had enough hours and enough of the heroes, and you have a general understanding of the game, you can specialize now, right? We can really kind of hone in our hours in on the heroes that we really want to get better at. It's fine now. So.
Want me to tell you the hours I have in the heroes?
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
Yeah. Well, I have 126 in Reaper and 104 in Genji, but then comes 28 in Tracer,
Mm-hmm.
26 in McCree, 24 in Hansel, 17 Ana, 16 Reinhardt, 15 Doom, 10 Ash, 10 Lucio, and then dropping uh Wrecking Ball, Zenyatta, Widowmaker, Soldier, Mercy, Brigitte, Diva, Junkrat,
Okay.
Moira, Roadhog, Zarya. The
Okay.
only one I've left for less than 1 minute is from Matra because I don't have it.
Okay, fair enough. Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I mean, it seems at least try the other things, and that's kind of what we wanted. Uh, okay. So you're at a point now where you have a pretty good idea of what you want to play because you know what you enjoy, right?
Hmm.
And that's why we've kind of settled on Reaper Genji. Fill me in. Where do Cassidy and Hanzo kind of fill in here? When do you play those heroes? How much do you play those heroes?
Uh, well, yeah, Reaper and Genji would be the ones I always play. Like if I played Overwatch that day, I played those two.
Yeah, always. Okay.
And and yeah, my Korean Hanzo would be the ones I alternate to.
Mm-hmm. How often
Um,
do you play? Like 10%, 5%?
I'd say no, I'd say like a solid 20%. I'm playing a lot of McCree lately,
Mm, mm.
honestly, because I've been doing aim lab.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that translates to McCree.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. Uh, let's see here.
And I
Hours
also
is.
like their aesthetic.
Yeah.
Their
Yeah. That's true. That's true. That's true. Okay. Um, and 10 to 14 hours of sleep. That's a lot of sleep. Why that much sleep? You're just a busy man.
uh I have a thing that if I don't have to get up, I probably won't.
Mm-hmm.
And I have late classes.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So here's my question for you. When you do sleep, do you continue to sleep longer than you need that is restful? In other words,
Yes.
yeah, that might be something to consider because you're definitely on the extreme end where you're getting with somebody who's working as hard as you, and assuming you don't have any health conditions, 10 hours
No.
of sleep is probably pretty reasonable. Like 10 hours of sleep is probably pretty good. That's enough for a hardworking college, esports wannabe, doing a lot of other things, right?
Mm.
The problem with that is anything beyond that is probably you're not really getting a lot out of it. Like you're not actually in a deep sleep, right? You're just kind of like dozing off. And that's time that we could be spending training. So most people I work with actually don't get enough sleep. You might have a little too much sleep, or sleep that's not exactly valuable, if that makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
so you to me seem to be a person that revels and that spends a lot of time in extremes, whether it's the Reaper Genji or the sleep or whatever. So what I don't want you to do is like, all right, I'm not allowed to sleep. I have to stop at 8 hours. No, no, no. 10 hours
Right.
is fine. Like, even 11 hours is fine. Just stop. Just don't spend 13, 14 hours at bed. You know what I'm saying? That's the
Yeah.
big one for me. Okay. Let's keep going here. So sleep is definitely a little bit on the extreme end. What do you hope to get out of the session? A way to correct mistakes without feeling the game feel like a chore. Well, that's the goal, right? Like we want to keep the game fun, but just make the game while we're having fun, that we have some goals and things to practice, right?
Yeah.
And then what is your current training schedule? Excuse me, right now. How often do you play? How much do you play per day? Do you have any days where you play a lot? Some days where you play a little bit? Fill me in on that.
Right now I'm playing Overwatch every day. I try to do about 5 exercise in aim lab, not that much. That would be like 6 minutes at most in aim lab, and then I go to Overwatch and I would do like 5 matches,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be for the day if I don't have practice. And if my friends join, then we would kick in some competitive, maybe try to rank up.
Okay.
Sometimes I do go wild when we go like, okay, let's try to rank up, and we do like maybe at most 10 matches.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. So a couple hours every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, a short warm up works fine for me. I will say if you're playing a lot of Genji, for Cassie, you talked about how Aim Labs is helping you out, and I think that's really fair. But with Genji, you're going to be doing more 1v1s and stuff like that. So you might want to spend more time in deathmatch if you want to improve your Genji mechanics a little bit. That's just a little tip I would have for you.
Okay.
So just a little adjustment there, depending on how much Genji you're playing. And heck, even Reaper, right? Like, how do you aim labs Reaper? You need to get
Yeah, right.
you need to get up in people's face and flick, 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 bam, 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 bam. You know what I'm saying? But just something to kind of keep in mind with that. Okay. And then you play for a couple hours. Is this about pretty much every single day?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, that's a decent training schedule. I think your training schedule is all right for right now. Okay, so then we need to figure out what we need to do next. So we have a decent warm up, we have a decent training schedule, and what do you feel is holding you back from improving? You say in your form, slow learner. Well, what do you mean slow learner?
Uh, well, yeah, it takes me a while to grasp uh simple concepts. Not because I don't understand them, but to translate it into gameplay.
Give me an example of that.
I well, okay. With Reaper, when I'm exiting a team fight and I don't have fate,
Yes.
I shouldn't look backwards, right? I should stay shooting to stay alive and walk backwards,
Yes.
and instead of giving my back to the team, to the
Yes.
enemy team.
Yes. Yes.
That took me a while to actually turn into something I do subconsciously.
Well, I mean, most things take a while for somebody to do subconsciously. So maybe you're a slow learner. Maybe you're just improving at a pace that's normal, and you just don't know it yet. You know, because I like what you said there. You said about taking that skill and developing it subconsciously, right? That's right. That's exactly how learning happens. So we just want to try and build that skill. Now, how do you get better at improving that skill? How do you do it? Like, let's say if you want to improve the speed at which you learned, how do you do that?
Mm, I noticed that I work better when I learn things one at a time,
Mm-hmm.
one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing about me. I am a very slow thinker.
Mm-hmm.
I uh I've taken IQ tests, and according to what my friends say, they consider me pretty smart. But if you give me time to think,
Yes. Yes. How do you get faster at thinking?
I don't know.
Huh. Remember when you said you talked about how you needed to build your fade thing so you could do it as like a habit, right?
Hmm.
When you get it to that point, there's not really any thinking at all, right?
No,
It's just
right.
action. So being a slow learner, but a very deliberate and patient and strong learner is totally fine. You might take your time and learn one thing at a time, but when you learn it, you really, really, really learn it, right? You really got it. And that's a strength as much as it is a weakness, right? So don't look at it as necessarily a weakness, just as a way that you learn right now, right?
Okay.
Because I've worked with a lot of players that they're very fast learners, you know, and they improve at something, but then they move on quick, bang, bang, and then they haven't actually really mastered it yet. Right? Whereas you might be a little bit slower, moving on one thing at a time, but when you learn something, you really do learn it, and that would be a strength. That would be very helpful. The only thing I might say is it might be a little bit less fun because you do work at something for a long time before you really master it. But I think you will be a strong player once you do master it, right? So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think the way you're setting yourself up right now is fine. We just need to kind of keep learning, right? Just keep learning. So for you, you're a slow learner, okay? But when you learn, you're great with it. So let's just keep learning one thing at a time, patiently, 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 and then by the end of the next, year, you will have so many skills that you could do automatically, right? So many skills, and that you've
Hopefully,
learned
yeah.
really well. So don't look at it as a weakness. It's just a different way of learning. Okay. You also say mentality is holding you back from improving. What about your mentality?
I notice I'm a very mental player, as in like if a toxic player keeps telling me that I'm bad,
Mm-hmm.
it'll probably get to my head, and I'll
Mm.
start playing bad because I believe him.
Yeah, yeah. Or even if you don't believe him, it distracts you, right? Because
Yes,
you're not
true.
thinking about your gameplay. You're like, this guy is so
Hmm.
toxic. What is this guy doing? You
And
know?
something you met Christian and Aries, right? Yeah.
Oh, what is it?
Uh, Christian and Aries, you coach them. Uh,
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah. I was actually in that room. I was a
Yeah, I
rookie.
remember. I remember.
Okay.
I was watching.
Yeah. Christian says a lot that once in a match. I do good. I just go up. I get confident and I start I become a beast is
Yeah,
literally what he said.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely.
But but the thing is, more often than not, the opposite happens, where I'm
Right,
not doing as good, and
right.
that means I'm trash for the rest of the match.
Right. So you're very fragile. You were either glass cannon, like bam, right? Or you were very like, oh no, somebody hit you with a stick and you just fall apart, right?
Yes.
um, let's think about that a little bit. So a lot of people are like that to an extent. You might be more like that than other people. However, I will say this, when we consider other people calling you trash, let me give you an
Hmm.
example of that. Like, let's say at your college right now, somebody knocked on your door right now and says, what's your name, by the way? J Buzz?
I'm
Just call you J Buzz or what?
Joan.
Joan. Okay, so Joan, you're ugly and you're stupid and just walked away. That would kind of hurt your feelings. You'd be like, what? What is this? What is your oh man, like that would like ruin your day because like,
Yeah,
man, but that
let's
doesn't,
add that it's someone I know,
right, like
because
that.
that would probably laugh my ass off. That
Yeah,
some random dude just
right.
knocked on my door, told me that I left.
Exactly. It'd either be funny or it'd be like horrible, But like that's the problem right there, is because if you think about it, we're human beings, right? So like when people say nasty and ugly things to us, it's normal to care about what they think. Like if your mom or your dad or your brother, your sister, your family, or your friends or whatever, or people you don't even know come up to you and say something really rude, that hurts your feelings. You know what I'm saying? Like that's normal. The problem is that we live in like a world right now where like a lot of people that you don't even know and never will see will say mean things to you all the time. Twitter or Reddit or YouTube comments or Overwatch voice comms, happens all the time, right? All the time. Probably you've seen it even in games where you're not the one being flamed, somebody else is flaming somebody else, right? It happens
Yeah.
all the time. So like we're like humans that are used to like caring a little bit about what people think because that's just normal. But then we start hearing like what I would say unsolicited feedback where like a bunch of random, I don't even know who you are, like what is your problem, they just like start flaming you, and we don't know how to deal with that. Like we don't know how to deal with that. That's not normal. You don't wake up as 4 years old and have random people coming up to you and telling you that you're trash. Like you're just a kid. Like what? And then you get into like a Modern Warfare 2 lobby like back in the day, and like people calling you all sorts of stuff, saying they like gonna do all sorts of like stuff to you. You know what I'm saying? You're like, what? Like what? So here's the sad thing. You're not. I wouldn't even say you're overly sensitive or weird for getting your feelings hurt. I am professional Overwatch League coach, top 500 before, GM, greatest of all time. No, but you know what? When I'm in my like Diamond Master lobbies nowadays, because I'm washed, not that good at the game, and people start calling me like, start flaming me, it hurts my feelings. It does.
Yeah, really?
It does. Yeah, it does. It hurts my feelings, And the only way that I was able to get better at it was to either play enough to where it didn't bother me or to just leave voice chat. So let me give you an example of that. My wife, she plays a lot of ranked, and she plays Widowmaker, and she's like high gold. And gold players hate Widowmaker so much. Either the enemy team or her team, somebody's always flaming her. If she does really good, enemy team flames her, reports her, says she's aimbotting. If she does not so good, her team flames her, her team reports her, says she's trash, calls her all sorts of names, things like that. She doesn't care. She's played for so long, so many games, that she just expects it. Oh, these are just dumb golds. They're just going to flame everybody and everything. They're just miserable people, right? So it doesn't bother her at all, right? I wish I was like that. I don't play enough Overwatch to where I'm just used to it, right? Every single time it happens, so what I do? Sometimes I don't join voice. Or if I'll join voice and things get toxic, I'll leave voice, right? So you kind of have to choose which one is going to work for you. Is it going to be avoiding voice and avoiding team chat? Because don't let anybody tell you differently. You can and will climb out of gold without using voice. I climbed to Grandmaster without using voice. Or you go, you know what? I'm going to tough it out. I'm going to build like Iron Mental, you know what I'm saying? And just be in voice and just ignore it. And focus on building a really, really strong mental. Do you kind of see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to decide which way you want to kind of strategize. What's your game plan? What's your strategy? You kind of understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. So you kind of either have to ignore it, or you have to avoid it, and focus on your gameplay. Because when people are hyping you up, you play really good. you know what you should do when people hype you up? You should play the game. You know what you should do when people are trash talking you? You should play the game. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're pumping you up or pumping you down. You just play the game. Your brain turns off. You play the game. You're like a surgeon. You know what I'm saying? You're like laser focused. Do you kind of see?
Yeah.
So I guess for me, it's like that is very difficult to practice, but it's something that you need to start learning how to do now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So you need to find out your strategy. Am I going to be in voice and just focus on like my gameplay and screw those guys, they're just being mean and rude, ignore them, whatever? Or am I just going to avoid it and turn off voice chat, turn off team chat, just focus on my gameplay? You get to choose. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then you said, what else is holding you back from improving? The last thing you said is game sense. What do you mean game sense?
Yeah, well, I don't really think much when I play, I guess.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how my concentration works.
Okay.
But there's a lot of stuff that like I die, and when I see the kill cam, like, yeah, obviously that was going to kill me.
Right.
As like I didn't see someone who should obviously be there, as in like an Ashe in an obvious high ground, and I'm just going past her, or a Widow that's peeking, and I just go and like walk up in field.
Right.
Uh, and I believe, like, once I know there's a Widow, I should be able to process, hey, I need to be careful, I need to play around corners and like behind cover.
Right.
But for some reason I just don't do that, even though I know I should.
Right. Well, knowing things and doing things are two different things. So I coach Overwatch League players, right? Greatest players in the history of the world. And yet even though I'm smarter than them and know more about the game and help them, I am not an Overwatch League player. And it's not just because my mechanics aren't very good. I struggle to make decisions in the heat of the moment. I don't have that skill set to like make these decisions really fast in the moment, right? So for you, you're like, I know Widow can shoot me. Why did I do that? Here's my question for you. Is it because you haven't practiced the skill to be thinking and playing around Widow? You need to practice that skill? Or is it that your brain is just turned off and you're not even like focused at all? Which one is it? Or is it a little bit of both?
It might be a little bit of both, but I think it's mostly the second one.
Right. Okay.
Because of the same thing I told you earlier.
Sure.
I'm not a fast thinker.
Sure.
So I just go by instinct.
Right.
I go by what I
Right.
feel is right. And most
Sure.
of the time, it goes against what I know is right.
Sure. So what we need to do is we need to train your instinct to be a little bit better so that you do these things without having to think, right? And what that might mean is that we have a game where you're very focused on playing around Widowmaker, very focused, and maybe you don't play very good because you're overly focused on a Widowmaker, but that's okay. We're trying to improve you playing around Widowmaker as a skill, right? And then next time you play around Widowmaker, maybe you practice that for a few games, and then next week you play around Widowmaker, and maybe you don't even think about it, but you're playing around the Widowmaker better just because you got a little bit of practice at it, right? That's the goal. Just be patient with yourself, Like, if you feel like you're not trying or you're not focused at all on anything, then yeah, that's a problem. But if you feel like you're focused on something, but you just keep messing up other things, that's okay. We can live with that. Do you see what I'm saying? That's not a problem. The problem is when we're not focused at all. The problem is not when we're focused on one thing and we mess up another thing. The problem is when we're not focused at all. That's what we have to fix. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
No, not right now.
Okay. If any questions do come up, you just let me know. Talked about a lot of stuff, obviously, and so it's going to take some time to improve these things. But again, don't treat the slow learning thing as a weakness. Just let's practice one thing at a time. So when we're thinking about Reaper, there's a lot of things that we could be thinking about. But what are some things that you think we should be thinking about? What are some skills that are important with Reaper?
I guess keeping an eye on my health.
Sure. What else?
Uh,
How do you play Reaper?
oh, I guess I gotta know my targets.
Yep. Yep. Look at the enemy composition. Who do you think are going to be your targets?
Right now, I would say May.
Sure.
Mm, if I get an opportunity to flank, I'd say Anna.
Yeah.
And when I'm in the front line with my team, I just focus a tank.
Sure. I mean, pretty much everybody in the enemy team you can shoot. Like that's the thing with Reaper. Like, there aren't very many matchups that you're bad at if you can get close to them, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it's all about let's take a really good position and let's see what we can get, right? Let's see what we can get. Okay. Anything else you were thinking about with Reaper? So we talk about targets, positioning, looking at our health. What else?
Mm, I guess knowing where my healing comes from is
Yeah.
knowing where's a health pack and where to run there to run to my team.
You said run, but that probably is going to be more Wraith than run, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm
that's what I
messing with
mean.
you. I'm messing with
Escape.
you. Yeah. But yeah, you're gonna Wraith run right back to your right. So that's something to consider as well. So we got a lot of things, right? A lot of things to think about. So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna go through everything. I'm gonna look at your cover usage, your mechanics, your positioning,
Yeah.
your Wraith, your TP. We're talking about everything. But what we'll do at the end is we'll go tappy, and we'll make a short list of things that you can work on one at a time.
Okay.
All right, let's see here.
Because I know for a fact I'm gonna make a lot of mistakes.
That's okay. Everybody makes a lot of mistakes. Review Grandmaster Reapers, they make lots of mistakes. You're never going to fix all of your mistakes. It's just about improving, always improving. So for you, you need to be thinking, I want to, when my team is shooting people, and is your team shooting people right now? Kind of, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to be thinking about how can I shoot people too. So how do you shoot people? How could you set something up here? Because you can't just sit here and shoot the Ash, that ain't gonna work. So what do you think? What are your options? There's a few options.
The stream is very pixeled.
Yeah, that's
I
unfortunately the bit rate. I can't help you a lot there. I could try
okay.
this, but that's just Discord. So sadly, Discord streaming is not super good. But where could you go?
Probably to the corner where the two healers are.
So your healers?
That would be
here.
Once they start. Yeah, that corner instead of where I am right now.
So then you could shoot Reinhardt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Give me another plan, another option that you could do. Think about your TP.
Yeah, I could go and try to push them off high ground. Maybe
You could
get a pick, but
maybe, yeah. But you would at least maybe clear them off of high ground, prevent that Ash from shooting your team. What if you TP'd here and then flanked on this Ryan, or even walked up and flanked on the Moira Ash? You see?
Mm-hmm.
That's another option, right? Now, which one's better? I don't know. We would like cover. But really, I just want to see us engaged right now. So let's see what happens. See, this is the problem. The fight's starting, and right now, we're not really doing a whole lot, right? As long as the fight started, you could try to do things. Okay. Now, remember how we talked about how positioning dictates who you shoot? So with Reaper, you're not like, oh, I have to shoot one target or I have to shoot the second target. You can kind of shoot a lot of things. You can shoot tanks, you can shoot squishies, you can shoot healers, right? So you go up to here. Would you rather shoot a Reinhardt at shield, with shield, or because you got the TP, right? What do you think about sneaking up on this Ash right here?
Yeah.
You guys see what I'm saying? So you picked a position with the Symmetra teleport that allowed you to either go for Reinhardt or to go for an Ash. They were both very close. But you chose the Reinhardt instead of the Ash, and I think that's probably a mistake, even for a hero like Reaper. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You won't always be able to go to Ashe. Like, let's say Ashe is a million miles away, and you're like, oh, I could teleport to her, but it's too far. But you managed to get on top of the Ashe, and then instead we just dropped the point and shot the Reinhardt instead. I think that's a mistake. If you can only shoot Reinhardt, that's okay. But why not? Like right here, we're shooting Mei and not Reinhardt because the Mei's right there, right? So why not? But when the Ashe was right there, we chose to go away. I will say this as well. When you use your Wraith, so she's focusing you, right? Try and find cover. So you have two options here. You could either Wraith right back to where you were. You could Wraith back to this corner here. You could Wraith to this corner here. Do you see how this corner kind of allows you to kind of bait and peek, right? Think about it like this.
Yeah.
What I don't want you to do is end up in the open. Because you probably, you could definitely die here, right? We want to avoid that. This is good. Ana over Reinhardt, right? Because Ana's right there, right? If Ana's on high ground, maybe we have to shoot the Reinhardt. But we got to shoot the Ana because the Ana was right there. Nice. 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 Okay. Good work. Could be a little better with our target.
Okay.
That's really funny. What happened here?
Oh no, yeah, I was going for a snack.
That's funny. But yeah, we could do a little better with the targets that we chose and making sure that when we use our Wraith, we go to cover. That's funny. All right. Now this is when we can be sneaky. This is when we can be sneaky, right? Now, why are you using teleport here? Let's look at this from here. Why? Do you see the enemy team?
Mm-hmm.
What's the problem for you? Can you reach them? Right. You can't. So you have. This is why you have teleport, so that you can sneak up, so that you're able to get close to them, and then when you get close to them, you shoot whoever you want, right? So for me, this is really good. The only thing you have to be careful about is when should you start shooting these guys. Do you remember the very first fight? We're talking about like, why are you could TP here, you could TP here, you could go with your team. What was happening right then? You remember?
Yeah, I was far away.
Right. You're far away, and was your team shooting and fighting?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, they were. Now let me ask you a question right now. Is there really a fight happening right now? Kind of. Really, no. Not really. So I want you to teleport here, and I want you to wait. And I want you to listen. And I want you to watch through the walls. And then as your team slowly walks forward, or as the enemy team slowly walks forward, and they start spamming, and people start getting low, then you go. You see that? Because then the enemy team is all thinking, here we go, shoot, bam! And you just blow them up, right? Now this Ashe is about to push you. We could take this 1v1. But the problem here is we just go a little early, when probably we should have just been hiding and waiting and waiting and waiting. You kind of see what I'm saying? Just a small adjustment, but it's really important that you get that right. Because the problem is now, I'm not going to lie to you, your healers should have healed you. But even if you'd had survived here, you lost your sick flank, didn't you? It's gone. Mm-hmm. And you lost your Wraith. That sucks, even if you'd survived here. I do want to find out why we were not getting healed. I don't know. I'm not too sure. But regardless, terrible timing. We have to fix that one. We have to try, because sometimes as a Reaper, you are going to take flanks, right? You are going to go by yourself, but you don't want to go by yourself when you're by yourself, if that makes any sense, right?
No, yeah, I know, I get it.
All right, we're in. You could fight this. You have a Kitsune rush and a Sim wall. You could fight. You could be doing something. Nice. Unfortunate. I think when you see your team fighting, this fight is still pretty even, right? This fight is still winnable. I don't want you waiting this one out, right? So you go down and kill the Ryan, right? Good. But then we need to go. We need to fight around our Sim wall. This Ana should have died. Do you kind of see what I'm saying? When your team is fighting, you need to be fighting too. I think we waited just a little bit too long. Does that make sense?
So I get it.
Right. So the previous fight, you fought when your team wasn't fighting. This fight, your team was fighting, and you weren't fighting. Right. I know you didn't have a chance to set up a good flank, so but even if you can't set up a good flank, sometimes you just need to go. All right. Fat Death Blossom coming in. We can already be setting up, by the way, right? We could TP across to here, hide, flank around, wait for our team. If the Ashe pushes us, we can kill her. Otherwise, we just wait, right? Start to set up. All right. Clear her off, playing. All right. Now, I think this is going to work. Hopefully this Ana doesn't sleep you, but I think there's a pretty good chance that this is going to work. Why? What's happening right now? Do you see it? Right? Stuff's happening, right?
Yeah.
This Mei is thinking, Orisa. Ryan is thinking, Orisa. Ana's thinking, Orisa. Ashe is thinking, Symmetra. Moira's thinking, heal the Mei, right? I think this will work. And it does, right? And why does it work? Because you played like a good teammate. You played like a good teammate. You saw your team pushing, you took a flank, you killed them. You don't need voice comms to make this work. You just need your eyeballs, all right? And you need your ears. Does that make sense?
No, yeah.
That was really good. Really nice. All right, let's walk. We're gonna go touch cart. All right, good stuff. Looks good. Nicely done. Obviously, having Death Blossom there helps, but even if you had not had Death Blossom, if you just shot that on us, she would have died. She would have gotten no help because her Moira's healing the Mei, because the Mei is focusing the Orisa, because the Orisa is walking through the choke and walled. Like, you capitalized, you played with, not with your team, but you played as a team. Oh, this fight's lost. Should probably just back up. Uh-oh. Whoops. We should probably just disengage. Don't stagger here. Oh, they're gonna push you. You're dead. Yeah. So when you're down like a bunch of people, just TP out, right? TP out and Wraith out. Don't, because right now your team now has to wait an additional 10 seconds waiting for you, right? You were the last person to die by a long time. So this is a brutal stagger. We need to avoid that whenever we can. Does that make sense?
No, yeah.
Okay. All right. Looking at our team. Okay, we're starting to push. We take the TP to high ground. Let's go. We need to get close. We are getting close. Let's go. Pushing cart. Using cover. This is nice. Still can win this. Let's go. I think you can get in there. Don't be so scared of Bastion. As long as your team is fighting, get in there. Use that sim wall even. So I think we could have been a little more aggressive, right? Again, just a little bit more aggressive. You see your team is in here, right? Look at this. Look at them all in there. Go. I know you're worried about a little bit about cart, but I want you to get in here and shoot this guy in the back. You know what I'm saying? Be aggressive. Yeah. Sometimes it seems like you see your team in, and you're a little scared because that Bastion's not even thinking about you, right? And you can light him up. But look, see, he's not thinking about you at all. Look, he's still not even thinking about you. He's still not thinking about you, right? That guy should have died. This guy should have died. Does that make sense? All right. Let's keep going. Bastion's above us. Oh, he's dropped. He messed up. Nice. We play with our team. Our Symmetra is in now. Our Orisa is in. We need to be in. We take the TP. Good. Nice. Oh, so close. Honestly, good try. Good try. Maybe we didn't need to Wraith there earlier, so we would have had Wraith here. But honestly, if the Ashe hits her shots like this, I mean, look, your Orisa's in, right? You see this? This is fine. Just really good shots from the Ashe. That's all. Unlucky. Go next. If you do your job, but then the Ashe just hits her shots, sometimes you just lose. That's okay. So from what you've seen so far on your Reaper, what do you need to practice? What do you think? Do we have? Well, by the way, is there more Reaper here, or is it just Genji now?
Now it's Genji.
Okay, so let's make some notes here. Reaper. What are some skills that we need to practice? What do you think?
So playing with my team.
Well, okay.
Playing as a team.
Yes, yeah, I got you there. Playing as a team, using your once the fight starts. Now you go. If the fight is started, you need to go. Because we saw probably 3 or 4 fights, most of the fights, the fight had started, and sometimes you just do nothing. Or the fight would not be started, and you would go in by yourself. Like, you're playing a hero that doesn't always play with your tank. You might be flanking and sneaking around and doing your solo flanks, but you still need your Orisa to be shooting them to distract them. You still need your Sigma to be shooting them, distracting them. You still need your Monkey to dive, or your Reinhardt to push, or your Zarya to be spamming, or something. Even if it's just spam, like even if they don't dive or push with you, you need them to distract, right? And that needs to be more consistent. Okay, what else do you think you could practice a little bit? What's another skill you need to improve?
Targets based on positioning.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
As in like who to kill.
Sure. Who could you kill faster?
Right.
And that's the question, because we talk about Reaper as a tank buster, kind of, sort of, but actually when you get up close to a target, you can kill a squishy faster than you can kill a tank, right? The question is can you get to that squishy? So that's why Reaper is nice, because if you can't reach the squishy, you could shoot a tank and do a lot of damage. But if you can reach the squishy, I would go for the squishy. So target priority, squishies, especially fat ones, right? Zenyatas and Bastions and stuff, right?
Yeah.
If you can reach them, otherwise tanks. And I do like how we were looking for flanks. I like how we were using our teleporter and trying to sneak up on people. We just need to time it a little bit better. Anything else that you think you can practice? Remember your Wraith form, right? Where do you end your Wraith form if you get it force? Where do you try and go?
Wait, repeat that.
Where do you end your Wraith form? So if you use your Wraith form, let's go back to this fight here. When you use your Wraith form, right? Oh no, crap, I used my Wraith form. If you use it,
behind cover?
Behind cover, right? That could be a corner here. It could be a little pillar. Like, let's say there's just a pillar. Hide behind the pillar. Somewhere with cover. So end Wraith, behind cover, corner, somewhere where it's harder for the enemy team to shoot you. Now, they might still chase you down and kill you, but at least it's a lot harder for them to do that. And maybe they overextend and die for it. Does that make sense? Okay, so I think those are all good skills to practice one at a time with Reaper, right? Do you want to take a little look at your Genji?
Please. Yes.
All right, let's look at some Genji. Maybe we can have 1 or 2 things to practice with Genji. So there'll be a little bit less gameplay, but I'm certain that we can come up with 1 or 2 things. So Genji is a little like Reaper, where you can take flanks and angles. You can shoot tanks or you can shoot squishies. So it's going to depend on your positioning here. I like high grounds with Genji or flanks, but you don't have to necessarily be behind the enemy team. You can even just like this angle up here, you can easily spam Bastion and Ashe. Do you see that from this position? And then you can either just spam them and distract them and build ult charge, or if they get really low, you can kill them and then dash out again, right? So you can use an angle to either spam or you can use an angle to kill. And this is why I like high ground, is because it gives you good vision. You can see things a little bit easier. So if there's like a Widowmaker that's shooting at you, maybe you can't go high ground. But like right here, do you see how hard it's hard for you to see? Do you see this? You can't really see. Whereas here, you had a much better time to see targets that you could kill. And then you could decide if you want to go in or if you don't want to go in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So high ground.
Just a little bit more cover. That's all. From that high ground position, you can see things better. I like that we're shooting Bastion. He's nice and fat. He's pretty easy to kill. But honestly, at this point in time, we didn't do enough. And so our teammates died, and then the fight was lost. This fight, maybe it was over either way. But I definitely think you could have helped your team win if you'd been positioning on high ground a little bit better. Ooh, run. Nice. So, remember we talked about warm-up, right? What's the issue here? You hit a nice little deflect, right? You dash. Look at this 180. See how slow that was? So, what's your sensitivity and DPI right now? Do you know?
I think it's like probably a 10% and I think 800 DPI.
Okay, so it's definitely high enough, right? Do you have a big enough mouse pad? Like, how big is your mouse pad about?
It's a desk mouse pad.
Okay, so you're good to go. So what's the problem here? It's practice, right? It's practice. So the best way to practice Genji 180s is to play Genji in comp and ranked, right? But if you play a lot of Genji, I might recommend playing. Have you ever heard of Tryhard FFA Deathmatch?
No.
Watch this. Play custom games. Hopefully they'll have one. They don't always have one. Try hard, and then nothing. Tragic. Free for all. Nothing. If you look up try hard, oftentimes there will be a try hard free for all deathmatch, and it basically disables a lot of the tanks. And there's like 12 people in there, and sometimes they'll have like grandmasters and stuff in there, so it's really good practice. If you can't find one here, you go to here, you go to unranked, you go to deathmatch, and you queue up for deathmatch. That's how we practice Genji. That's how you can warm up Genji. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that will help you with the 180s because your sensitivity is fine. You just need to practice it more. Because you see an opportunity to kill the Ashe here. If you're the best Genji in the world, that Ashe is dead. So we need to practice our mechanics a little bit. Let's keep going here. So yeah, high ground, a little bit of high ground, a little bit of our 180s on our mechanics. And yeah, let's go. Oh dear, we're down 2 already. So I'd be very careful right now. You got your team in spawn. Yep. Play careful, play careful. You don't want to stagger again, right? Okay. Remember what we talked about with Reaper? When do you go aggressively?
When the team's fighting.
Right. Be very careful, right? This is what you need to know, right? So unless you see somebody that's 1 HP that you can just kill and get out really fast, be very careful about how aggressively we're playing. Our Ramatra is in spawn. Looks like you're doing a pretty good job of being careful right here. This is good. Now our Ramatra is here, so if you want to go aggressively, now we can. Oh, this Ashe is good. She's hitting those dynamites. Where'd Kiriko go? Okay. I'm not sure where the healing is going, but yeah. I probably would have grabbed this mini health back.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking right now.
Yeah. I will say this. What do you think about the timing of this flank? Is this a good flank? Is this a good time to flank? Is there something happening right now? Oh, yeah. I mean, look at this.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
This is like a, you know? Yeah. This is a great time. So now, Kiriko might be hard to kill. And you might not be good enough to get the kill here. But this is good strategy from you. You just needed to grab the mini health pack. Because guess what? That Reinhardt is not getting healing right now. Guess what? That Ashe is not shooting the shadow targets. They're shooting you. So if you survive here, and you do, that's a good play. Do you see that? So you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. This fight might just be lost, but I think you did a pretty good job with your timing there. I think you did a pretty good job. Now, can we get healing? We're gonna play with our sim wall. Oh, please heal me, Kiriko. Brig heals you. Oh, this is gonna be big. I can feel it. Set up on high ground. Let's get him. Let's get him. Oh no! We didn't see the Ashe. She's up top. She's up top to your right.
Yeah, no,
She coach guns up right now, and then she just pops it. Man, this Ashe is killer. Oh, it's unfortunate. But you know what? I respect you taking high ground there and getting set up for your next dive here. So okay, let's stop there. So for Genji, we only had a few minutes of footage, but I do think we saw a lot that we can practice. What are a couple of things that we can practice with Genji? Some skills that we can build.
Probably mechanical skills, isn't like
Okay.
Yeah,
how do we practice our
warm
mechanics?
up.
Right? Warm up with deathmatch, with tryhard, FFA, or arcade deathmatch, right? Go in there and win the lobby, right? You know, wreck them. You know, you're going to get a lot of practice versus a lot of supports and tanks. It's going to be great practice for you, okay? And then just keep practicing, right? Just keep practicing, right? Don't worry about it. Like, mechanics take a long time to practice, but if you're consistent with it, you will get better. Okay, what else did you see needs to get better?
The getting better cover and high ground where I can see more of the fight.
Cover high ground so you can see more of the fight. So you can spam better, so you can dive better, right? Okay. Anything else that you saw? I'm gonna throw this one in there, even though you did pretty good with it. Just a good reminder. The timing. The same thing as Reaper, right?
Yeah.
Timing of flanks. You did a really nice job with one of them. And I think it's actually the only reason that your Reinhardt or Ramatra didn't immediately die, because you helped protect him by distracting Kiriko and Ashe. But we want to do that every time, right? Every time. You might not always go on hard flanks, but whenever you do, you have to make sure that you time it really, really well. So I liked that, but I want to make sure that we always do that. Make sense?
Yes.
So like we said, when it comes to practice and learning, one thing at a time, right? Pick one of these for Reaper, pick one of these for Genji, and keep practicing, right? Give it a week or so. When you're like, I'm so tired of practicing this, right? Then go move on to the next thing. Even if the first thing isn't perfect, even if it's just a little bit better, that's okay. We move on to the next skill set. Does that make sense? Okay. Do you have any questions?
It doesn't like show, right?
What is it?
No, I can't think of anything right now.
Okay. If you do have any questions, let me know. So you got coaching from me, so you get a free replay code review. So what that means is you can send me a replay code with like 3 or 4 timestamps. So you can be like, hey, here's a replay code. Check out 4 minutes, 8 minutes, and 10 minutes and 26 seconds. What do you think of these? And what I'll do is I'll take a look. This could be Reaper, it could be Genji, it could be Kree, it could be Hanzo, and I'll take a look and I'll send you some feedback in a couple of days. So a little bit of extra feedback. Make sense?
Nice.
And you can do that whenever you'd like. Next week, next month, whenever you'd like. Sound good?
Yes.
All right. One skill at a time. Be patient. Embrace the slow learner. You're slow, one step at a time, but you're very strong once you've mastered a skill. Keep up the good practice, 2 hours a day. Of ranked with a little 5, 10, 15-minute warm-up. And that's every single day. Keep working at that sleep management. Have goals whenever you're playing ranked. Never waste your time. Decide how you want to strategize around the toxicity in ranked. Are you going to ignore it and focus on your game and just, you know what, I don't even care? Or are you just going to mute it, right? Don't join voice chat. Focus on your own play. Totally up to you. Yeah, and like I said, if you do have any questions, just shoot me a message, all right?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. I will upload this and have this posted to YouTube unlisted. I'll send you the private link probably by tonight or tomorrow. It's going to depend on how fast I can get it uploaded. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds